Governor Tim Pawlenty is with me now. And Governor, good morning to you. You described this as a Ponzi scheme. That's a scheme where the initial investors put in money at the front end, then siphon off of the other investors who come in later. Bernie Madoff did this very well. How does that apply to the federal government?
Well, the same way it applies to Bernie Madoff. It was a really bad idea. It was reckless, it was irresponsible, and it comes crashing down in the end. We don't want that to happen to our country. But clearly, Bill, it's not a matter of Republican or Democrat. Both parties, both presidents, both parties, both Congress leadership structure over the last several decades have contributed to this. But it is fair to say that President Obama and the current Congress have made it exponentially worse.
You penned a piece, and it's on Politico's website for people who want to check it out. We'll have a link for it on our website, too, to foxnews.com. Some of these numbers you point to are staggering. Federal government spending has grown 7 times faster than median income since 1970. At $12 trillion, the debt is more than 80% of GDP. That's enormous. Debt per household is $600,000. I mean, that's just staggering. But you argue it doesn't have to be this way. You can just turn off the faucet. How so?
Well, there's a number of things we can do, but just one other fact that just sticks in my mind is that the federal government takes in from all revenue sources for all purposes about $2.2 trillion a year. The total unfunded liabilities of our country are $65 trillion. Federal government liabilities. And so there's no way on $2.2 trillion of revenues they can service those unfunded liabilities. It's not a matter of right or left. It's just a matter of mathematics. But in terms of what we need to do, there's some ideal things like getting the federal government to pass a constitutional amendment to balance the budget. Number 2, give the president line item veto authority. Number 3, take the unused TARP and bailout money and put it towards debt and deficit reduction.
Let me stop you. Do you think those first 2 options are even possible with this Congress?
Well, it's an uphill battle, Bill, but certainly that would be the ideal. And I don't believe that if you keep sending politicians to Washington who get rewarded for the kind of behaviors we see in politics, that they're going to fix this by themselves. We're going to need some kind of cap or mechanism in place to force them. The balanced budget would be the best way to do it. 49 states do it, and it works. Well,
you're right that it requires a national understanding and acceptance. I thought that was very interesting language. And when you heard President Obama yesterday, flip it on its head here. What if he came out and said, across-the-board spending cuts 5% or 10%? Every household in America is forced to cut back. So, too, with the federal government. Would that have been a good political stand for him to make?
I think so. I think you want to make it on a priority basis, though. So, for example, the military might be exempted from that. In Minnesota, we've bent the cost curve dramatically. We've taken our spending in this state down to dramatically reduced levels. We haven't used across the board. We've done it on a priority basis. We've actually cut spending in Minnesota for the first time in my state's 150-year history. And if it can be done in a liberal state like Minnesota, it can certainly be done on behalf of the country nationally or in other states.
In your state, you're still facing a $1.2 billion deficit. I mean, the red ink is deep there in Minneapolis, St. Paul, too.
Just about every state, Bill. With the exception of North Dakota and Wyoming, all states are facing deficits. When the crash happened in 2008, the bottom dropped out of the revenues coming into government. But that doesn't mean you just run back to the well and ask the taxpayers for more. We have to do what everybody else is doing. That means tighten your belts, live on a little less, flatter declining revenues, at least until we get out of this hole.
But give me a sense of when you talk like that to the people in your home state, how do they react? Do they say, cool, I'm all on board that? Times are tough, let's suck it up.
Absolutely, they do. In fact, I was in a group yesterday and said, look, if you're not in government, raise your hand if you're getting a raise, or if you're getting your health care benefits increased, or you're getting your family incomes or household budgets going up. Everybody's experiencing this flat revenue or declining revenue, job losses, furloughs, wage concessions, and they look at government, at least the people who work in the private sector, and say, hey, you guys should do the same, and we should.